Bobby Kimball prepares a movie of his childhood musical hero starring Danny Glover. I'm John Bowden from rockhistorymusic.com. Bobby was born in a very small town, which he'll tell you about in a second. He was very influenced by his mother, but there was a chap in his small town, which was, as he'll tell you, really, really small, who taught him all about rhythm. His mother taught him chords. This gentleman was on another level. Bobby was born 2 years after the war. When he was 5 and a half, he met this musical hero. This was around 1952, where racism was everywhere.
I came from Louisiana. I was from a really small little town on the southwest, very south, very west border of Louisiana, 8 miles from the Texas border. It was a small little town called Vinton, V-I-N-T-O-N. And I have to tell you, there were only 3,000 people in that whole town. John, I need to tell you something. I absolutely adored living in that small little town, mainly because when I was a little kid, 4.5 years old, I used to watch my mother play the piano for about an hour. I would stand there and watch her play the piano because she had perfect pitch. Wow. Everything she heard on the radio or on a record, she could sit down and play it 100% perfect. Finally, she turned to me and she said, "Bobby, let me teach you some piano chords." And for about a half a year, we worked on that, and I learned about 300 chords. And the thing is, I did not know any rhythm. When I was, probably about 5 3/4 years old, I went to the barber shop. I had gone to the barber shop many times. There was only one barber shop in that town. Of course. Yes. There was one main street, one red light, one barber shop, one bank, only one of each things. Well, the deal is, I went to the barber shop, and right across from me, about 5 or 6 feet, there was this black guy standing up in this tall shoe shine thing. And there was a guy sitting up on the chair, and he had his back to me. The guy was popping the shoe shine rack to a New Orleans second line beat, and sometimes he would hum the song. It was always New Orleans songs, but he was black. I was 5 years old. He was 52. Mm-hmm. And anyhow, the little town that I lived in, they never ever communicated very much with black people. White people didn't.
Yeah.
And they had a black neighborhood and a white neighborhood. That was it. After I heard him do this rhythm thing, I walked over to him and I said, "My God," I said, "what is your name?" And I have to tell you, white people very rarely called any black people by their real name. They nicknamed all of them. Wow. And he was tanning leather shoes. His nickname was Tanner. My God, I said, "I loved your rhythm so much. I really need to learn some of that. Come and sit about 3 feet there on that couch, and as many times as you want." And my house was only 4 blocks away from the barbershop. Well, for 3 weeks, I went every day and watched him for a while. Then I would run 4 blocks home, use his rhythm, my mother's cards. I started playing so much piano when I was 5 years old. It was unbelievable. And I even wrote some songs when I was 5 years old.
My God.
Hard to believe. It was so fun. That is when I got started musically, but on the radio.
Tanner was such a big influence on Bobby Kimball that years ago he wrote a song for him, even before he went to LA around 1974. But it never came to fruition up until a few years ago. And then he thought, "I'm going to write a book about this." And then he paused again and said, "Maybe a screenplay. This should be a movie." He hired a screenwriter. The screenwriter showed it to Danny Glover. And then Danny Glover said, "You have to let me play Tanner." So after the touring winds down, Bobby is going back to his small town, and they're going to start filming this movie with Danny Glover. It's pretty exciting. We're Not in Kansas Anymore is the new album from Bobby Kimball. It's sort of a tip of the hat to the Toto boys, as well as a right or left turn, depending upon how you look at the center of the pie, of going slightly in a different direction, though much of the album does sound still like that nice, tight LA Toto sounds. Make sure you comment on our videos, subscribe to our channel, and share our videos. We'd appreciate that. I'm John Bowden from Rock History Music.